Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. So today's Friday. Going to talk about a couple of things, and then we'll get to some trucking stuff. So I was in Vermont, kind of went up there with a bunch of the kids and some spouses of two of my daughters. And we rented out this whole bed and breakfast that a friend of ours actually owns in Northfield, Vermont. And we did some cool stuff. I had an opportunity to go to a place that I've gone to in Waterbury as a truck driver, but take a look at what I did at the shipper this time. So that's me and a couple of my daughters at Ben and Jerry's in Waterbury. Another cool place we went was Brookfield, Vermont, and we were on Vermont Highway 65. And you know, in Vermont, you got to be careful where you drive, especially with a truck, because the 65 was paved and then it turned into a dirt road. Then we got to like the top of this hill and we went down the hill, and this is what we found. So that floating one-lane wooden bridge is actually the 8th iteration of a floating bridge over Sunset Lake. And you might wonder, why do they have a floating bridge, or why have they always had a floating bridge? And it's been made of various things, 55-gallon drums, floating, just different things. But the lake is very deep. It's a glacial lake, and just like the lakes, like the Finger Lakes in New York, some of which are hundreds of feet deep. This lake, I was talking to a guy that was out there fishing. You can probably see in the picture some people were fishing there. He said, yeah, this thing, he's like, it's about 100 feet deep here. And, 100 feet is not a lot, except that if you think about back in the 1800s, the idea of driving pilings that deep would have been out of the question, I think. But also, just even today, even if you said, oh yeah, let's put a piling, let's put a structural bridge there versus a floating bridge, how to get the equipment in there to do that would be really difficult and cost prohibitive, because just the road going into Brookfield, at least the direction we came from, it's a dirt road, and it's almost like farm lane in places. And if you've been in states where, like Pennsylvania, where a lot of roads are used to just be farm lanes, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But Vermont's a beautiful place, and it's got a lot of good things going for it. So anyway, but if you don't like winter, it's probably not a good place to go. But it was nice. It was like 70s when we were up there, very low humidity. Just a great place to get away in the summer and celebrate our anniversary. So, and let me just show you a couple pictures from the bridge here. Beautiful little lake, Sunset Lake, by the way. So check this out. Okay, enough about my vacation. Let's talk about a little history. So I mentioned yesterday we had 1,544 subscribers. Somebody left the fold, and we're at 1,543 today. But that's okay, because it turns out 1,543 is a really interesting year. And I pulled up a couple of things. So in May of 1543, Nicholas Copernicus, who was he was a Pole, he's from Poland, but he was living in Nuremberg, Germany, and he published, he basically published this thing that said, this is how the heavens and earth work, essentially. And he proved mathematically that the universe is heliocentric and not geocentric, okay? In other words, he proved that the Earth and all the planets revolve around the sun, right? The sun is the center of the universe, heliocentric, and not the Earth. The Earth is not the center of the universe or geocentric. And also, interestingly, in May of 1543, Copernicus dies. May 24th, he was 70 years old. So his life's work published the same month he passes away. But, you know, age 70, I'm sure he beat the average life expectancy back for that time of in the world. So anyway, another thing happened in July. July 12th, Henry VIII, King of England, marries a woman named Catherine Parr. Now, Catherine Parr turns out to be his sixth and last wife, and one of the witnesses to the wedding is Princess Elizabeth. But later that month, the English Parliament passes what is called the Third Succession Act, and it basically ensures that Elizabeth and her sister, her half-sister, Mary, would eventually become the monarchs. And Elizabeth, of course, becomes Elizabeth I of England, the Virgin Queen, who, by the way, the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia, is named after. That's why it's called Virginia, the Virgin Queen. And she ends up ruling for like 44 years and was generally regarded as a very successful, I shouldn't say very, a successful monarch, in part because of her longevity on the throne. She dies in 1603. So she ruled from 1558 to 1603. So it was, it was, and she was the last, by the way, if you're keeping track of royal families at home, she was the last Tudor monarch. Her mother was a woman named Anne Boleyn, who was actually Henry's second wife, who he executed when Elizabeth was 2, because he didn't have a male heir. Interestingly, his daughter turned out to be one of the greatest monarchs of England, but he had no way of knowing that would happen. So let's talk about trucking. So here's something interesting that I found. When I was a kid, semi-trailers seemed to be shorter than they are. Like, they were 48 feet, 45 feet. I don't know when the 53-foot trailer became a thing. Maybe there's some people that have been around trucking for a few decades that would know kind of when that started becoming the norm. But I've often wondered, because 48 was the standard, then we went to 53, so we increased it by 5 feet. I've often wondered, is somebody going to go crazy and make like a 58-foot trailer and have us hauling those things down the highway? Well, maybe not. But here's something that just happened in Canada. Walmart Canada has rolled out some 60-foot trailers with multiple temperature zones. They're built by Utility, who builds most of the trailers that Prime has. I think we also have some Wabashes, but the vast majority of them are Utility. I think the Utility 3000R is the best-selling refrigerated trailer in North America. But Utility is building these 60-foot trailers for them. So man, I don't know, I've never driven a tractor trailer up in Canada, although I'm probably going to start at some point, like just going up into Canada for something different to do. And I've talked to a few Prime drivers who do it, and they say it's fairly lucrative. But yeah, so I don't know if that's the shape of things to come. I could see certain places where, like you drive from point to point, say a distribution center to another distribution center that are close to the highway and have roads that are kind of, where you exit. Like, as an example, I think of like the Walmart distribution center in Cheyenne. It's right next to the highway. It's easy to get to. Most Walmart DCs are. maybe, could somebody convince somebody in the United States to let people haul 60-foot trailers? I don't know, but anyway, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But here's what I really wanted to talk about today. I read an article on CDL Life about a gentleman he's an owner-operator, kind of old school trucker, and he must do flatbed because he was up in Montana and was loading some posts, maybe like fence posts, onto his flatbed, and a bundle or whatever broke loose while he was trying to strap it, and he was on the ground, and he ended up getting crushed by this bundle, or, well, actually it wasn't together. It was like he got crushed by a bunch of these posts, and he was badly injured. It was like knocked him down, kept falling on top of him, broke a bunch of bones, including some in his back, broke his leg, and he's laid up. And his family has started a GoFundMe page to pay for his medical bills and other costs. And I feel for the guy, but I have to say this, and I'm saying this to anybody that's an owner operator, anybody that doesn't have insurance. There are ways to prepare for something bad like this to happen. And it's called insurance. It's called medical insurance, because apparently this guy needs money for his medical bills. So that tells me he doesn't even have a medical policy that covers accidents. And those policies typically are not super expensive. And so at any age, you should have some kind of medical insurance that will cover you in the event of an accident. So you fall off the back of a truck, you slip and fall when you're going into a shipper's office. It could be any number of situations. You get in a wreck, right? Even a wreck, like you're home on home time and you're driving your Datsun B210 pickup truck and you get T-boned by somebody, right? You want to have insurance for those medical costs in the event of an accident. You could be a healthy, 30-year-old, no bad habits or anything like that, but accidents happen to everybody, okay? So some kind of medical insurance. Disability insurance, both short-term and long-term disability. Now, I've talked about this and I've explained the difference between what workers' comp insurance covers and what disability covers. So, but just to review, if you get hurt on the job and you're an employee, you will be covered by workers' comp. But if you're an owner-operator, you won't, okay? But you could be covered by a disability policy that you own, both short-term and long-term disability. This guy's hurt. He's about my age. I don't know how long he's going to be out of work. I don't think his family does. He may never go back to driving a truck. He got hurt pretty bad. He might not be able to pass the DOT physical. But that would be a long-term disability that he sure would like to have some coverage for. Now you might say, oh, well, doesn't the government, Social Security provide disability? Well, yeah, they do, but it could take months and months and months. And then you might have a fight with them and have to hire a lawyer to get what you're entitled to. And, there are ways to protect yourself, which is to say ways to protect your family. So my advice is, and this goes back, I was talking, I think, about one of my kids' orthodontists, right? Several of my kids had braces over the years, and one of the orthodontists they had was, I'm sure, making like $250 at least a year. The guy had a wife and 5 kids. Guess what? He got killed in a car wreck. His partners, his dentists, that his practice, they asked patients to kick in to help support this guy's wife who didn't work. And, his 5 kids. And I'm like, why doesn't this guy have like $2 million worth of life insurance, right? He's a highly compensated professional. And the answer is because he didn't take care of it. And you know, he was a youngish guy, healthy. I'd met him on a few occasions, and so if you can't rely on anybody. You know, you can't rely on GoFundMe. You can't rely on family members or friends or the government to cover you. But if you have a disability policy with a solid company, you're going to get money, right? While you're laid up. And if you have health insurance with a solid company, you're not going to be stuck with, you know, $200,000 worth of medical bills that could, you know, possibly bankrupt you. Now, usually, you know, there's a rule against putting medical bills on your credit report, but it doesn't mean the companies aren't going to try to collect. So, take it from me. Get the insurance you need, because you never know when you're going to need it. You have insurance on your truck, you ought to have insurance on your moneymaker, which is you, right? You're your most valuable asset. And in many families, anybody that's a breadwinner is a valuable asset. You know, so like if you have a spouse that works and they don't have any life insurance or disability, get them a policy. A lot of times you can get policies together, right, where the spouse has coverage too. But if you need a referral for like short-term, long-term disability policy that you own yourself, I can give you one. I got an insurance guy. He's a guy I've known for well over 20 years. He's a retired Navy commander. He was a SEAL. He lives up in New Hampshire, but he's licensed in many, many states. He's helped my wife and I. He's working with one of our kids and their spouse. I'm sure he'll do stuff for other family and friends. And I'm happy to give his information out because he's a super guy. So anyway, please don't be this guy. I mean, I hope people contribute to his GoFundMe, but that's not a great plan. It really isn't. So anyway, take care, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.